I then traveled to Ottawa, and on May 25th, I met with the ambassador from Ecuador. As I've said in previous updates, we were trying to secure that the women's soccer team from Ecuador come to Six Nations to practice prior to the games, and he did confirm that they would do that. Right now, I know they are in Canada, and they're playing in the FIFA women's soccer tournament that's going on. So once we get the date that they want to come to our community to practice, we're planning to hold maybe a cultural evening for them and show them some of our dancing and singing and give them some traditional food. The ambassador and I also talked about possible future opportunities for trade between Six Nations and Ecuador. And this is something we will continue to discuss and look at maybe possibly doing a trade mission down to Ecuador. The next day in Ottawa, I also had the opportunity to meet with Justin Trudeau, who is the Liberal leader, and Thomas Mulcair as well on the same day, who is the NDP leader. I was joined by Councillors Carl Hill and Terry General, as well as Phil Montour. We're also joined by Mayor Chris Friel of Brantford and one of his city councillors and two of the councillors from the county of Brant. We all spoke individually about the need for the federal government to get back to the negotiation table to discuss Six Nations land rights. We welcome the opportunity to have the city and the county with there, because they, as much as us, want to get the land rights for Six Nations up and down the Haldeman track settled. So we really appreciated their support. I also took the opportunity to bring up education and non-insured health benefits and Bill C-10 on the contraband tobacco, which is the contraband tobacco bill, and taxation. And although they did not make any real commitments to us, we were well received and feel that we can secure further meetings and communication with them as time goes on. And I thought it was important that we meet with these two gentlemen, as one of them just may be the next Prime Minister, depending on the outcome of the federal election, which is scheduled to take place this fall. I also met with a number of people from different ministries in the province to try and secure funding for an after-school music program. I'm working with Maestro Boris Brott and his wife from Hamilton, who have approached us to wanting to provide an after-school music program beginning in September for our kids here. They are securing the money to provide that, or trying to, and we're going to provide the kids in a space. And what we hope to do is start off with the kids learning about the music, but also learning about goal setting and determination and all those good things, and get somebody in to videotape them, and then maybe at the end of the school year we might have our own little orchestra that can put on a concert for our community. So I'm excited about that, and I hope we can secure the dollars to do that. I also took part with the Political Confederacy of the Chiefs of Ontario in a meeting with the executive of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. Now, this is comprised of all the mayors in Ontario, and we met with their executive, and Mayor Ron Eddy from Brant County is on that executive, and we talked about how we can work together with the municipalities and the mayors, especially those that are close to First Nations. They will also be having their annual assembly in Niagara Falls in August, and I think for the very first time they're going to have a First Nations panel on their agenda. So a number of our people will be taking part in that, and I think it's good so that they can help provide education and awareness about the struggles and the issues that we face on a daily basis as First Nations. I also went to Redeemer College in Ancaster to provide welcome and greetings to the Hamilton chapter of the United Church, who were holding their annual meeting there. And at the end of May, on 29th, we hosted about 17 people who were young leaders from across the country that were taking part in the Governor General's Canadian Leadership Conference. A number of them started out in Newfoundland, and then they were broken up in teams and into teams and sent out across the country. The group that visited us were visiting southwestern Ontario, and we met them at the Woodland Cultural Centre in the afternoon because they wanted to tour the residential school that's up there. So we took them through the mush hole and get an excellent tour by Laurie Gallant and Amos Key, and it really, I think, educated them about the whole residential school. They then came down to the community, and myself and Dale Bomberry spoke to them about some of the issues in our administration, and Phil Montour also showed them our global solution packages PowerPoint. So it was a long day, and they were tired, but I think they certainly appreciated it because we also gave them some corn soup and scone. On May 30th, as I mentioned earlier, I took part in the arrival of the Pan Am Torch, and then I traveled to Ottawa on the 31st of May, And I took part in the Walk for Reconciliation along with some of the residential school survivors here from Six Nations. And this was day one of the last event of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I stayed for the first day of their event, and then, as you know, on the second day, the commissioners did present their recommendations, and so we're going to all work to make sure that those implementations get recommended or get implemented. On June 4th, I took part in our, I think it was our 16th annual Tom Longboat Run. I was able to complete the 10K in an hour and a half, so I got to keep at that because I got another 10K coming up later in the year. Right after that, we had the opening of the skate park. That is, we had about 10 kids that worked for the last 20 months to raise money to get a skate park here at Six Nations, and congratulations to those kids. They are real role models for our community because they were able to secure the dollars, and that skate park is now open for the young people in our community to use. Later in that day, we had a visit from representatives of the North American Indigenous Games Council. The next games are scheduled to be held in 2017, and the Aboriginal Sports and Wellness Council in Toronto is making a bid to host those games in Toronto, and they want to include some of our facilities for lacrosse and other sports should they get the games. So we hosted some of the council members to come down here and do a site visit. So if they do get that bid in 2017, well, it'll be a busy community around here with the NAIG games.